has been a right roller coaster of a start to a stream. Can't believe it. Okay. So, I think I'm gonna leave it a few minutes to let everyone get in to the stream, since this was kind of a spontaneous one. I mean, to be fair, all of my ASMR streams tend to be spontaneous. Although I actually have a plan for this one, kind of. Oh, I turned too quick. My model didn't like that. It's fine. Also, if you see my model kind of going a little bit wonky, it's because I'm adjusting my glasses. Funnily enough, they look very similar to the ones on my model. I hope everything's loud enough. I don't know if it's okay or not. I'm just gonna mess with my cup. I brought a cup. I feel very awkward. I kinda just wanna do a chill stream though. Okay, it's an ad, so I'm gonna chill while that ad's going. Sorry if you guys don't like cracking bones. I'm a very crackly person. But what we're gonna do is I'm gonna fill up my cup. I got some lemonade. And then when a couple more people are in the stream, we are going to go through this book that my grandmother gave me quite a many years ago. I was like single digits when she gave it to me. It is called 50 Bedtime Stories, and it is written by... Wait. I gotta get a bright screen. Something. It doesn't say on the front. Books usually say it on the front, don't they? Look inside. Maybe it's inside. From the sounds of it, it's not. It's weird. It doesn't like say who wrote the stories, it just says who compiled the stories. Okay, well, it was compiled by Tig Thomas. T-I-G Thomas. Maybe it says who wrote them on each of the stories, because it is like a bunch of just different bedtime stories. I'm curious though. Well, I guess since they're just... Oh, yep. It says who wrote each one under the story. So this is a bunch of different stories by a bunch of different authors from the sounds of it. Like Jack the Cunning Thief being by Joseph Jacobs. And then... let's find another story. The Fish and the Ring being by Flora Annie Steele. I like this book a lot because it says how long roughly you would be reading each of the stories, although I don't think it accounts for reading them out loud. So they might be a bit longer than the reading time says. Let me... I really want to get my chat to be up on screen, but I like it being see-through. I have a see-through Windows thing, but the keyboard shortcut I use to do it is the same shortcut that NVIDIA likes to use for screenshots. So I kind of just have to keep doing it until it works. And I know I could just change the shortcut, but I don't know how to do it with NVIDIA. And when I'm in VR, I know how to do this keybind without looking, which I need to do fairly often. So I kind of want to keep this keybind specifically for this. Okay, fine, NVIDIA, you win today. Okay. Sorry, just checking in Discord while we chill. Alright. So I'm gonna put this down for a second. Try not to make the loudest noise possible. And then I'm gonna get my cup. I'm gonna get the lemonade. It's a very risky maneuver, considering everything is right here. I don't know how loud this is gonna be, so. I think I poured it a little too much. It's quite dark in my room. It's always dark in my room. But I think I'm going to take a sip now just to get the liquid level down to a comfortable level. Really bad at this ASMR stuff. Okay. I'm gonna put that to the side. I just know that with all this whispering and reading stories and stuff, we might need to drink now and again. So thought I'd have that handy just in case, so I don't have to step away to go get a drink. So I just want to quickly make note that the ambience you are currently hearing is from a website called asoftmurmer.com. All one word, no spaces, no nothing. And all of the credits can be found down there with the link. So asoftmurmer.com/about all the credits for the nicest, I guess, can be found there. And I'd just like to bring your attention to the fact that we are, as per usual, sponsored by Dubby. If you want to head over to dubby.gg and use my promo code XX or XX, which is currently on screen right there, you can get 10% off your order of some cool sugar-free energy drinks. You can also use !Dubby in the chat or click the banner beneath my channel. Every time you use my code, I get a bit of a commission, so you'll be able to help me out a bit with that. But if there's a different way you would also like to support me, my donations are always open. Right now I'm kind of in a weird spot with my living situation. I'm kind of at risk of getting kicked out because my parents can't really afford to keep this place up. So there's a chance that they might just go move into my late grandmother's house, since that's capable to be used for 2 people. So me and my brother will have to move out if that happens. So all the donations and all the money that I'm getting from streaming is going straight towards paying for my living expenses to stay in this house. I don't really know how else to describe that. But anyway, stories. So, as I said earlier, this was a book given to me by my grandmother. Not the one that I was just mentioning, but my nanny Ella. Her name is Eleanor, but when I was a kid, I always used to call her Ella, like Nanny Ella instead of Eleanor. So she was always Nanny Ella. She was the closest person in my entire family that I ever got to. Like, I loved her more than anyone in my family. There were like complications when I was a kid, which meant that I wasn't really that close to my parents, since they usually were dealing with their parents in hospitals and stuff, so I would usually stay with my grandmother for the weekends. She basically raised me as her own, which I always loved her for. Always made me feel safe and loved, and always did her best to give me the best. And I always remember she was that kind of grandmother that would sneak you some money when you were going home. And she never had a massive amount of money, but she always went out of her way to make sure that I had whatever I wanted, I guess, to some extent. Like, if I wanted to cook, she would teach me how to cook. If I wanted to go get sweets, she would give me, like, a £5 note to go get sweets, or promise that we would go get it next time. And unlike my parents, she always kept her promises. So, if she said next time, then it would be next time. And I remember she had this little room for me that she specifically, it was her guest room originally, but she made it a little bedroom for me specifically. And she always used to call me her favorite, and it really showed. She passed away quite a few years ago. And when I was cleaning up my room a little while ago, I came across this book, and I'd actually forgotten it was from her, but when my mother saw it, because I was trying to figure out what books I wanted to keep and what ones I didn't want anymore, so I was getting her help with that. She said that this was actually from my grandmother. I was so young, I guess I just didn't know. So I really kind of want to share it with someone. I don't really read much anymore. So I guess if I turn this into an ASMR stream series, maybe I can make someone else happy with this book, the same way that she used to make me happy. I used to have a different one exactly like it. It was 50 fairy tale stories instead of bedtime stories. I'm going to assume that was from her as well. I think they were Christmas presents now that I think about it. I'll probably find that one, well, that book one day. But I think I've been stalling for long enough. I think it's time to actually start finding what stories we're going to be reading. It's a really big book, so there's no way we're getting anywhere near even a quarter of the way through this book today. Okay, so if this does become a series, let's go through the contents first. Now, the thing I like about this book is that it actually has not only the reading times for each of these stories, but it also has them separated into different categories based on what kind of story it is. So the first category is Bold Lad. his strange and magical tales. Along the road. What nonsense. Birds, beasts, and dragons. Good and bad wishes. And in each of these, they have a couple different stories of different sizes and contents. So I think we're gonna have a great time. Now, if there were more viewers, I would ask which one. I would read out all of these different stories and see which one you wanted to read, but I think because of how many stories there are and just how long this book really is, I think it might be best if we go chronologically. So if we just start off at the beginning. So we are starting off in the bold lads and brave girls category with our first story being Jack the Cunning Thief by Joseph Jacobs. The reading time is 25 minutes, so depending on how long we want this stream to be, we might be able to get through 2 or 3 stories. And if that doesn't help you sleep, maybe we can read a few more. So, there was a poor farmer who had 3 sons, and on the same day the 3 boys went to seek their fortune. The eldest 2 were sensible young men. The youngest, Jack, never did much at home that was of any use. He loved to be setting snares for rabbits and inventing all sorts of funny tricks to annoy people at first and then set them laughing. The 3 parted at crossroads, and Jack took the lonesomest. The day turned out rainy, and he was wet and weary. You may depend at nightfall, when he came to a lonesome house a little off the road. "What do you want?" said a bleary-eyed old woman who was sitting at the fire. "My supper and a bed, to be sure," said he. "You can't get it," said she. "Who's to hinder me?" said he. "The owners of this house," said she. "6 tough men that go out until 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning each night, and if they find you when they get back, they'll skin you alive at the very least." "Well, I think," said Jack, "that their very most couldn't be much worse. Come, give me something out of the cupboard, for here I'll stay. Skinning is not much worse than catching your death of cold in a ditch or under a tree such a night as this." Well, she grew afraid and gave him a good supper, and when he was going to bed, he said if she let any of these 6 honest men disturb him when they came home, she'd be sorry for it. But when he awoke in the morning, there were 6 ugly-looking rascals standing around his bed. He leaned on his elbow and looked at them with great contempt. "Who are you?" said the chief, "and what's your business?" "My name," said he, "is Master Thief, and my business just now is to find apprentices and workmen. If I find you any good, maybe I'll give you a few lessons." They were a little cowed by that, and said to the head man, "Well, get up, and after breakfast we'll see who is to be the master and who the apprentice." They were just done with breakfast, when what should they see but a farmer driving a fine large goat to the market. "Will any of you," said Jack, "undertake to steal that goat from the owner before he gets out of the wood, and that without the smallest violence?" "I couldn't do it," said one. "And I couldn't do it," said another. "I'm your master," said Jack, "and it's up to me to do it." He slipped out through the trees, where there was a bend in the road, and laid down his right shoe in the very middle of it. Then he ran on to another bend, and laid down his left shoe, and went and hid himself. When the farmer saw the first shoe, he said to himself, "That would be worth something if it had its pair, but it is worth nothing by itself." He went on until he came to the second shoe. "What a fool I was," he thought, "not to pick up the other. I'll go back for it." So he tied the goat to a sapling in the hedge, and returned for the shoe. But Jack, who was behind a tree, had it already on his foot, and when the man was beyond the bend, he picked up the other shoe and loosened the goat, and led it off through the wood. Alas, the poor man was confused. He was unable to find the first shoe, and when he came back, he couldn't find the second either, nor his goat. "Woe's me," said he. "What will I do after promising Johanna to buy her a shawl? I'll go and drive another beast to the market unnoticed. I'd never hear the last of it if she found out what a fool I made of myself." The thieves were in great admiration of Jack, and wanted him to tell them how he had tricked the farmer, but he wouldn't tell them. By and by they saw the poor man driving a fine fat sheep the same way. "Who will steal that sheep," said Jack, "before it's out of the wood and no roughness used?" "I couldn't," said one. "And I couldn't," said another. "I'll try," said Jack. "Give me a good rope." The poor farmer was jogging along and thinking of his misfortune, when he saw a man hanging from the bough of a tree. "Lord save us," said he. "The corpse wasn't there an hour ago." He went on about half a quarter of a mile, and there was another corpse again hanging over the road. "God between us and harm," said he. "Am I in my right senses?" There was another turn about the same distance, and just beyond it the third corpse was hanging. "Murder," said he. "I'm beside myself. What would bring 3 hanged men so near one another? I must be mad. I'll go back and see if the others are still there." He tied the sheep to a sapling, and back he went. But when he was round the bend, down came Jack, the corpse, who untied the sheep and drove it home to the robber's house. You may think how the poor farmer felt when he could find no one dead or alive, going or coming, nor his sheep, nor the rope. "Oh, misfortune day," cried he. "What'll Johan say to me now? My morning gone and the goat and sheep lost. I must sell something to make the price of the shawl. What the fat bullock is in the nearest field. She won't see me taking it." Well, if the robbers were not surprised when Jack came in with the sheep. "If you do another trick like this," said the captain, "I'll hand over command to you." They soon saw the farmer going by again, driving a fat bullock this time. "Who will bring that fat bullock to me?" Sorry, I just realized I've been saying bullock instead of bullock. How do you say that? Bullock? Bullock? I don't know. he went into the wood. The farmer was nearly at the spot where he saw the first shoe when he heard the bleating of a goat off at his right in the wood. He cocked his ears, and the next thing he heard was the maaing of a sheep. "Blood alive," said he. "Maybe these are my own that I lost." There was more bleating and more maaing. "There they are, as sure as a gun," said he, and he tied his bullock to a sapling that he grew in the hedge, and away he went into the wood. When he got near the place where the cries came from, he heard them a little before him, and on he followed them. At least, when he was about a half-mile from the spot where he tied the beast, the cries stopped altogether. After searching and searching till he was tired, he returned for his bullock. But there wasn't a ghost of a bullock there, nor anywhere else that he had searched. This time, when the thieves saw Jack and his prize coming, they couldn't help shouting out, "Jack must be our chief!" So there was nothing but feasting and drinking hand to fist the rest of the day. Before they went to bed, they showed Jack the cave where their money was hid, and all their disguises in another cave, and swore obedience to him. One morning, when they were at breakfast, about a week after, they said to Jack, "Will you mind the house for us today, while we are at the fair of Mokery? We hadn't a spree for ever so long. You mustn't get your turn whenever you like. You must get your turn whenever you like. Never say it twice," said Jack, and off they went. After they were gone, Jack said to the wicked housekeeper, "Do these fellows ever make you a present?" "Catch them at it, indeed they won't." "Well, come along with me, and I'll make you a rich woman." He took her to the treasure cave, and while she was in raptures, gazing at the heaps of gold and silver, Jack filled his pockets as full as they could hold, put more into a little bag, and walked out, locking the door on the old hag, and leaving the key in the lock. He then put on a rich suit of clothes, took the goat and the sheep and the bullock, and drove them before him to the farmer's house. Johanna and her husband were at the door, and when they saw the animals, they clapped their hands and laughed for joy. "Do you know who owns these beasts, neighbours?" "Sure, they're ours." "I found them straying in the wood. Is that bag with 10 guineas in it that's hung around the goat's neck yours?" "Faith, it isn't." "Well, you may as well keep it for a godsend. I don't want it." "Heaven be in your road, good gentleman." Jack travelled on till he came to his father's house in the dusk of the evening. He went in and said, "God save all here." "God save you, kindly sir. Could I have a night's lodgings here?" "Oh, sir, our place isn't fit for the likes of a gentleman such as you." "Oh, come now, don't you know your own son?" Well, they opened their eyes, and it was only a fight to see who'd have him in their arms first. "But Jack, where did you get these fine clothes?" "Oh, you may as well ask me where I got all that money," said he, emptying his pockets on the table. Well, they got in a great fight, but when he told them his adventures, they were easier in their all went to bed in great content. "Father," said Jack, the next morning, "go over to the landlord and tell him I wish to be married to his daughter." "Faith, I'm afraid he'd only set the dogs on me. If he asks me how much you made your money, what'll I say? Tell him I am a master thief, and that there is no one equal to me in the 3 kingdoms, that I am worth £1,000, and all taken from the biggest rogues unhanged. Speak to him with the young ladies by. It's a strange message you're sending me on. I'm afraid it won't end well." The old man came back in 2 hours. "Well, what news?" "Strange news enough. The lady didn't seem a bit unwilling. I suppose it's not the first time you spoke to her." And the squire laughed, and said you would have to steal the goose off of the spit in his kitchen next Sunday, and he'd see about it. "Oh, that won't be hard anyways." Next Sunday, after the people came by from early mass, the squire and all his people were in the kitchen, and the goose turning before the fire. The kitchen door opened, and a miserable old beggar man with a big wallet on his back put in his head. "Would the mistress have anything for me when dinner is over, Your Honour? To be sure, we have no room here for you just now. Sit in the porch for a while. God bless Your Honour's family and yourself." Soon someone sitting near the window cried out, "Oh, sir, there's a big hare scampering like the devil around the yard. Will we run out and catch it?" "Catch a hare indeed. Much chance you'd have. Sit where you are." That hare made its escape into the garden, but Jack, who was in the beggar's clothes, soon let out another out of the bag. "Oh, master, there it is, still running around. It can't make its escape. Let us have a chase. The hall door is locked on the inside, and Mr. Jack can't get in." "Stay quiet, I tell you." In a few minutes, he shouted out again that the hare was still there, but it was the third that Jack was just after giving it its liberty. Well, after that, the servants couldn't be kept in any longer. Out raced every mother's son of them, and the squire after them. "Shall I turn the spit, Your Honour, while they're catching that hare?" said the beggar. "Do, and don't let anyone in for your life." "Faith, and I won't. You may depend on it." The third hare got away after the others, and when they all came back from the hunt, there was neither beggar nor goose in the kitchen. "Credit to you, Jack," said the landlord. "You've outdone me this time." Well, while they were thinking of making another dinner, a messenger came from Jack's father to beg that the squire and the mistress, as well as the young lady, would step across the fields and take share of what God sent. There was no dirty, mean pride about the family, and they walked over and got a dinner with roast turkey and roast beef, and their own roast goose. And the squire had like to burst his waistcoat while laughing at the trick. And Jack's good clothes and good manners did not take away any liking the young lady had for him already. While they were one second, let me take a drink. While they were taking their punch at the old asked. "You can't be sure of my daughter, Jack, unless you steal away my 6 horses from under the 6 men that will be watching them tomorrow night in the stable." "I'll do more than that," said Jack, for a pleasant look from the young lady, and the young lady's cheeks turned as red as fire. Monday night, the 6 horses were in their stalls, and a man on every horse, and a good glass of whiskey under every man's waistcoat. The door was left wide open for Jack. They were merry enough for a long time, and joked and sang, and were pitying the poor fellow. But the small horses But the small hours crept on, and the whiskey lost its power, and they began to shiver and wish it was morning. A miserable old beggar woman with 6 bags and a beard 1/2 inch long on her chin came to the door. "Ah, then, tender-hearted men," she said, "would you let me in and allow me a wisp of straw in the corner? The life will be froze out of me if you don't give me shelter." Well, they didn't see any harm in that, and she made herself as snug as she could, and they soon saw her pull out a big black bottle and take a sup. I think that's supposed to be sip. Curious to see spelling errors in a book. She coughed and smacked her lips, and seemed a little more comfortable, and the men couldn't take their eyes off of her. "Good men," she said, "I'd offer you a drop of this, only you might think it too free-making." "Oh, hang all pride," said one. "We'll take it and thank ye." So she gave them the bottle, and they passed it around, and the last man had the manners to leave 1/2 a glass in the bottom for the old woman. They all thanked her and said it was the best drop ever passed their tongue. "Ah, well," said she, "it's myself that's glad to show how I value your kindness in giving me shelter. I'm not without another bottle, and you may pass it round while myself finishes what the kindly man left me." Well, what they drank out of the other bottle only gave them a relish for more, and by the time the last man got to the bottom, the first man was dead asleep in the saddle, for the second bottle had a sleeping draught mixed in with the whiskey. The beggar woman lifted each man down and laid him in the manger, or under the manger, snug and comfy, drew a stocking over every horse's hoof, and led them away without making any noise to one of Jack's father's outhouses. The first thing the squire saw next morning was Jack riding up the avenue, and 5 horses stepping after the one he rode. "Confound you, Jack, and confound the numbskulls that let you outwit them. You went to the stable, and didn't the poor fellows look very ashamed of themselves when they could be woken up in the earnest?" "After all," said the squire, "when they were sitting at breakfast, it was no great thing to outwit such ninny hammers. I'll be riding out on the common from 1 to 3 today, and if you can outwit me of the beast I'll be riding, I'll say you deserve to be my son-in-law." "I'd do more than that," said Jack, "for the honour, if there was no love at all in the matter. And the young lady held up her saucer before her face. Well, the squire kept riding about till he was tired, and no sign of Jack. He was thinking of going home at last, when what should he see but one of his servants running from the house rose, as if he was mad. "Oh, master, master," said he, as far as he could be heard. "Fly home if you wish to see the poor mistress alive. I'm running for the surgeon. She fell down the stairs, and her neck or her hips, or both her arms are broke, and she's speechless. And it's a mercy if you find the breath in her. Fly as fast as the beast will carry you." "But hadn't you better take the horse? It's 1.5 miles to the surgeon's." "Oh, anything you like, master. Oh, mistress, mistress, that I should ever see the day, and your pretty body disfigured as it is. Here, stop your noise and be off like wildfire. Oh, my darling, isn't this a trial?" He tore home like a fury, and wondered to see no stir outside. And when he flew into the hall, and from that of the parlour, his wife and daughter, who was sewing at the table, screeched out at the rush he made, and the wild look that was on his face. "Oh, my darling," said he, when he could speak, "how's this? Are you hurt? Didn't you fall down the stairs? What happened at all? Tell me." "Why, nothing at all happened, thank God, since you rode out. Where did you leave the horse?" Well, no one could describe the stare he was in for about 1/4 hour between joy for his wife, and anger with Jack, and shame for being tricked. The servant didn't make his appearance for a week, choosing to keep a safe distance for a while. But what did the squire care with Jack's 10 golden guineas in his pocket? Jack didn't show his nose till the next morning, and it was a queer reception he met. "That was foul play you gave," said the squire. "I'll never forgive you for the shock you gave me. But then I am so happy ever since that I think I'll give you only one trial more. If you will take away the sheet from under my wife and myself tonight, the marriage may take place tomorrow." "We'll try," said Jack. "But if you keep my bride from me any longer, I'll steal her away, even if she was minded by fiery dragons." When the squire and his wife were in bed, and the moon was shining in through the window, he saw a head rising over the sill to have a peep, and then bobbing down again. "That's Jack," said the squire, pointing a gun at the lower pane. "I'll astonish him in a bit." "Oh, Lord, my dear," said the wife, "sure you wouldn't shoot the brave fellow?" "Indeed, and I wouldn't for a kingdom. There's no bullet in it." Up went the head, bang went the gun, down dropped the body, and a great crash was heard on the gravel walk. "Oh, Lord," said the lady, "poor Jack is killed or disabled for life." "I hope not," said the squire, and down the stairs he ran. He never minded to shut the door, but opened the gate and ran into the garden. His wife heard his voice at the room door before he could be under the window and back, as she thought. Wife, said he from the door. The sheet. He is not killed, I hope, but he is bleeding like a pig. I must wipe it away as well as I can, and get someone to carry him in with me." She pulled it off the bed and threw it to him. Down he ran like lightning, and he had hardly time to be in the garden when he was back, and this time he came back in his shirt as he went out. "High hanging to you, Jack," said he, "for an arrant rogue." "Arrant rogue," said she. "Isn't the poor fellow all cut and bruised?" "I don't much care if he was. What do you think was bobbing up and down at the window and fell so heavily on the wall?" man's clothes stuffed with straw and a couple of stones. And what did you want with the sheet just now? To wipe his blood, if he was only a man of straw. Sheet, woman. I wanted no sheet. Well, whether you wanted it or not, I threw it to you. And you standing outside the door. Oh, Jack, you terrible tinker, said the squire. There's no use in striving with you. We must do without the sheet for one night. We'll have the marriage tomorrow to get ourselves out of trouble. So married they were, and Jack turned out to be a good husband, and the squire and his lady were never tired of praising their son-in-law, Jack, the cunning thief. And that appears to be the end of that story. We have a drink. Some of the language used in this book is quite old. There's also a lot of ants in that story. Hopefully the fact that each of these stories are written by someone different means that maybe there'll be a few less ants. And the follow-up ones. Let's see. Who is in the chat? I see that we have one viewer at least. And I wonder which of you it is. It feels strange doing an ASMR video when it's midday. But I know a lot of you who are living in America and might be having trouble sleeping. This is probably the best time to be doing a video, I guess. Well, I suppose not. If you're waking up early, then I guess you'd be waking up now. But if you're a night owl, this might be good for you. Let's see. I'm curious how many pages this next one is. It says the reading time is 10 minutes. So it's definitely not going to be as long as the last one. The last one was 25 minutes. Let's see. There's some nice visuals with this one, but sadly you can't see them. Oh, there's some really pretty ones, actually. I'm curious why the previous story didn't have any visuals and this one just has a bunch. I feel bad that you can't see them now. Okay. Let me try to pull up a brighter screen. It's a bit difficult to read the pages when it's dark. Let me just magician, and could tell by his arts and charms everything that was going to happen at any time. Now this great lord had a little son born to him as heir to all his castles and lands. So, when the little lad was about 4 years old, wishing to know what his fortune would be, the Baron looked in his book of fate to see what it foretold. And lo and behold, it was written that this much loved, much prized heir to all the great lands and castles was to marry a low-born maiden. So the Baron was dismayed, and set to work by more arts and charms to discover if this maiden were already born, and if so, where she lived. When he found out, she had just been born in a very poor house, where the poor parents already had 5 children. So he called for his horse and rode far away until he came to the poor man's house, and there he found the poor man sitting at his doorstep, very sad and doleful. "What is the matter, my friend?" asked he, and the poor man replied, "May it please your honour, a little lass has just been born to our house, and we have 5 children already, and where the bread is to come from to fill the next 6 mouths, and where the bread is to come from to fill the 6th mouth, we know not." "If that be all your trouble," said the Baron readily, "maybe I can help you. So don't be downhearted. I am just looking for such a little lass to be a companion to my son. So if you will, I will give you 10 crowns for her." Well, the man he nigh jumped for joy, since he was to get good money, and his daughter, so he thought, a good home. Therefore, he brought out the child. Then and there, the Baron, wrapping the babe in his cloak, rode away. But when he got to the river, I read ahead. Oh no. This is not a very nice tale. Okay. But when he got to the river, he flung the little thing into the swollen stream, and said to himself as he galloped back to the castle, "There goes fate." But you see, he was just so mistaken, for the lass didn't sink. The stream was very swift, and her long clothes kept her up till she caught in a snug, just opposite a fisherman who was mending his nets. Now the fisherman and his wife had no children, and they were just longing for a baby. So when the good man saw the little lass, he was overcome with joy, and took her home to his wife, who received her with open arms. And there she grew up, the apple of their eyes, into the most beautiful maiden ever seen. Now, when she was about 15 years of age, it just so happened the Baron and his friends went a-hunting along the banks of the river, and stopped to get a drink of water at the fisherman's hut. And who should bring the water out but, as they thought, the fisherman's daughter? The young man out of the party noticed her beauty, and one of them said to the Baron, "She should marry well. Read us her fate, since you so learned in the art." Then the Baron, scarce looking at her, said carelessly, "I could guess her fate, some wretched yokel or other. But to please you, I will cast her horoscope by the stars. So tell me, girl, what day were you born?" "That I cannot tell you, sir," replied the girl. once that she was the little lass he had flung into the stream, and that fate had been stronger than he was. But he kept his own counsel and said nothing at the time. Afterwards, however, he thought out a plan as he rode back to give the girl a letter. "See you," he said, "I will make your fortune. Take this letter to my brother, who needs a good girl, and he will be settled for life." Now the fisherman and his wife were growing old and needed help, so the girl said she would go, and took the letter. The Baron rode back to his castle, saying to himself once more, "There goes fate." For what he had written in the letter was this: "Dear brother, take the bearer and put her to death immediately." But once again he was sore mistaken, since on the way to the town where his brother lived, the girl had to stop the night. The girl had to stop the night in a little inn. Okay. And it so happened that that very night, a gang of thieves broke into the inn, and not content with carrying off all that the innkeepers possessed, they searched the pockets of the guests and found the letter which the girl carried. And when they read it, they agreed that it was a mean trick and a shame. So their captain sat down and, taking a pen and paper, wrote instead, "Dear brother, take the bearer and marry her to my son without delay." Then, after putting the note into an envelope and sealing it up, they gave it to the girl and bade her go on her way. So when she arrived at the brother's castle, though rather surprised, he gave orders for a wedding feast to be prepared, and the Baron's son, who was staying with his uncle, seeing the girl's great beauty, was not unwilling, so they were fast wedded. Well, when the news was brought to the Baron, he was beside himself, but he was determined not to be outdone by fate, so he rode quickly to his brother's and pretended to be quite pleased. And then one day, when no one was near, he asked the young bride to come for a walk with him, and when they were close to some cliffs, seized hold of her, and was for throwing her over into the sea, but she begged hard for her life. "It is not my fault," she said. "I have done nothing. It is fate. But if you will spare my life, I promise I will fight against fate also. I will never see you or your son again until you desire it. That will be safer for you, since, see you, the sea may preserve me, as the river did." Well, the Baron agreed to this, so he took off his gold ring from his finger and flung it over the cliffs onto the sea, and said, "Never dare to show me your face again until you can show me that ring likewise." And with that, he let her go. Well, the girl wandered on, and she wandered on, until she came to a nobleman's castle, and there, as they needed a kitchen girl, she took work. Now one day, as she was cleaning a big fish, she looked out the kitchen window, and who she should see driving up to dinner but the Baron and his young son, her husband. At first she thought that, to keep her promise, she must run away. But afterwards she remembered they would not see her in the kitchen, so she went on with her cleaning of the big fish, and lo and behold, she saw something shine in its inside, and there, sure enough, was the Baron's ring. She was glad enough to see it, I can tell you, so she slipped it onto her thumb. But she went on with her work, and dressed the fish as nicely as ever as she could, and served it up as pretty as may parsley sauce and butter. Well, when it came to the table, the guests liked it so well that they asked the host who cooked it. And he called the servants, send up the cook who cooked the fine fish, that she may get her reward. Well, when the girl heard she was wanted, she made herself ready, and with the gold ring on her thumb, went boldly into the dining hall. And all the guests, when they saw her, were struck dumb by her wonderful beauty. And the young husband started up gladly, but the Baron recognized her, jumped up and angrily looked as if he would kill her. So without one word, the girl held up her hand before his face, and the gold ring shone and glittered on it, and she went straight up to the Baron and laid her hand with the ring on it before him on the table. Then the Baron understood that fate had been too strong for him, so he took her by the hand and placed her beside him, turned to the guest and said, "This is my son's wife. Let us drink a toast in her honor." And after dinner, he took her and his son home to his castle, where they all lived as happy as could be forever afterwards. Quite a dealing of fate in that story. Any thoughts, anyone? It's funny, I don't remember any of these stories from my childhood. Likely I didn't read this section of the book. I was more interested in fairy tales, so I probably read the other version of this book, the fairy tale version, more than I would have read this. That, or I feel as though I probably would have preferred Good and Bad Wishes, or possibly Birds, Beasts and Dragons. Seeing as we are just past the 1 hour mark, I think we might want to close the book for now. We'll see if anyone enjoys this, and if so, then we can look at making this a series. I hope you all enjoyed. It was a nice way to pass the time. Let's take a sip. If you have any bedtime stories you'd like to share, I would love to hear them. If you're watching on YouTube, you can post it in the comments. But if you are watching it VOD on my stream, maybe consider, well, if you're watching it VOD on Twitch, I mean. Ignore the dogs. If you're watching on Twitch, maybe consider joining my community Discord server. The link is up there, in the top right of this video. You can also do !Discord in my Twitch chat to get a link over there. And let me know your favorite bedtime stories in the Discord. It's quite quiet there, so you don't have to worry about it getting drowned out or anything. If you want to check out my YouTube, you can also use !YouTube in the chat. That will give you a link straight there. Or you can search for my sponsor Dubby. I'll remind you that you can use !Dubby in the chat. You can go to dubby.gg directly, or you can click the banner beneath my Twitch channel, all of which will send you to Dubby's website, where you can use my promo code XX to get 10% off your order of some sugar-free energy drinks. They come in a variety of flavors, and they even do starter packs, just in case you want to have a little test of a few flavors to see which ones you like best. Not only that, but they do also sell Dubby merchandise, such as bottles, stickers, caps, t-shirts, hoodies, and more. Every time you use my promo code, you will be helping me out a little bit, because I do get a bit of a commission. But I will once again remind you, if you do want to support me, I do accept donations. All of my donations will be going towards living expenses, kind of to avoid getting kicked out. I know I mentioned it earlier on when we first started the stream, but I did say that I would be mentioning my donations more often while I'm in this difficult part of my life. Excuse me, sorry. Any support helps. Even my prop commissions, so jewelry or weapons or just items in general. I also have asset commissions open. If you're interested, feel free to contact me on Discord. Obviously, you can get my contact by joining the battlefield, the Discord server for my community. I'll have more details in Discord, but it is on a kind of a person by person basis, as to how much it will cost. Obviously, since more complex designs will obviously cost more. I'm talking about 3D models specifically. If you're only here for my ASMR streams, you might not realize that I am a VR chat user and a VR chat content creator. So I make props from scratch. Some of them are on Booth. I don't make many for Booth at the moment. I'm thinking of starting to Booth and Gumroad. Yeah. But my asset commissions are open, so please, if you have any questions, or if you just want to query, or maybe get examples of my previous commissions, I would love to show off what I've done so far. I make them from scratch, which includes rigging, texture painting, UV mapping, shape keys, or setting it up for bone transforms to use in Unity. And one thing I pride myself on is optimization. So if you commission someone who doesn't have optimization in mind, you could have a piece which is very unoptimized, could make people's computers lag, could be quite heavy on someone's computer. If you are not too familiar with optimization yourself, so it's easier to get someone like me who knows a lot about it and has been working with various different methods to optimize models for quite a number of years now. Whether that's keeping it all to one texture so you only have to use one material, keeping the bone count to a reasonable level, only using as many polygons as necessary, separating the blend shape meshes onto a different mesh. Surprisingly, that's more optimized. Having two meshes, one with blend shapes and one without, is shockingly a lot more optimized than having the entire mesh with all of the blend shapes on just as one mesh. I don't understand understand it. I just know that it's more optimized. I think it's the vertex count. It's trying to calculate where all of the vertices are on the model at all times. So less vertices, less calculations. But that's its own thing. This is a bedtime story stream. I shouldn't be going on about model work. I apologize. So yeah, if you join my community Discord, or you are on my YouTube channel as well, I currently have a poll up because I'm thinking of streaming some more Otome games like I used to do. I'm trying to stream more often to try and make it more worth people subscribing or donating and such, because I'm providing more content. So I'm thinking of playing some Otome games, and I'm not sure which one to play. So if you go to my YouTube channel or you join my Discord and check the announcements channel, please make sure to actually participate in the poll, so that I can see what game you guys would like to see next. Okay, so stay sharp, slice through your problems, and I will see you in the next stream, whether that is for another bedtime story, or another game, or another roleplay. I'll see you in the next stream from the Silent Swordswoman.